Proof of humanity. The standard for shopping online has lifted, and that's not a bad thing. The problem is that consumers may not be able to tell the difference between a legitimate business like your own and these pop-up like stores that just kind of show up and sell something. I was approached recently by a company and it's a DTC supplements business. I thought, is this real? It looks really spammy. And it just occurred to me that it's very easy for anyone these days to start a Shopify website, put up some AI generated product images, write that copy using AI and get selling, which isn't a bad thing for anyone who wants to start an online business. Fantastic. But it also meant that for businesses that are primarily focused on D2C, they've been investing for years in optimizing that experience, making sure that the whole brand is represented through that funnel. Well, they need to stand out. What am I trying to say here? E-com is getting sloppy and we need an antidote to that. So in my opinion, I believe the antidote is proving that you are a human running a business. I think it's a quiet and subtle shift in behavior, like all things when technology comes in to disrupt, that consumers will start to become more discerning and they'll expect that brands have a lot more depth to them and who they shop with is really going to be connected to values even more so. I like to think about this as proof of humanity in the age of e-com slop. So I have a 10-point checklist for that, to prove that you really are a human running a business online. It's something I wanted to stress test, so please jump into the comments and let me know if you have other D2C brands that we should be testing this against. Let's dive in. I'm going to test my proof of humanity checklist against a couple of supplement D2C brands. I don't shop with these brands, so please don't be offended if you know them very well. Let's get started. Okay, let's take a look at one of the supplement brands that I hadn't heard of before, and I've been trying to kind of dig up some information on them. First, we're going to search them, see if they're real, and they don't have much organic presence, at least in traditional search, or a unique name, but they're called Bloomin'. They don't come up in search, but I know their URL. So here we go. Let's take a look. So they've acquired enough customers to potentially get real content. That looks like AI. Okay, before I get into it, here we go. Here's the product. I'm not even on their PDP. So my first question is, do you include non-studio creative in your product pages, especially in the media section, the carousel? Are those real people holding your product? Let's take a look. And is that real lighting? Are there real hands? You know, AI has gotten pretty good at creating pause, but I think oh gosh. Okay, maybe that's a real doctor. Yeah, great. So many supplement brands. So here we've got studio quality. Let's just jump into a PDP. Yeah, I mean, all of these can be made really easily by a human in Photoshop and now in AI. The hands, I always look for real lighting and for real customer images. So looks like real lighting, a real space for these creators. Although this, she's not holding that up. That's just been put in there. So you just have to watch out for the proportions and whether something looks real. That looks like a Photoshop job. Could be AI. Yeah. And then we look at hands and nails, count the fingers. And then we look at real customer content. So I'm also looking for UGC embedded into the shopping experience. I'm looking for video. Does your brand communicate in video? Can I actually click on these? Can't open and watch them because I can't hear those ones. That could have been inserted in there. This is one of those AI type hands, those fingers that don't make sense. This kind of thing here. I'm just saying that as a graphic designer who's photoshopped so many things in my life. Yeah, could definitely be a real picture augmented in AI, but those hands give it away. Are your reviews verified? So I'm looking for the reviews. Here they are. So reviews, we've got custom images. We saw that particular creator further up. Can't actually click on them, but these look like native reviews. I'm not sure if this is Yotpo, if this is a Kendo. Obviously we can filter them. Let's take a look at the bad ones. These look, I forgot to enter. Customers leaving bad reviews, admitting fault. This is unusual. I'm going to actually go into Trustpilot. We're going to pop in their website address. This is for the US. Listing of Trustpilot. Okay. So overall, it's not too bad, but I tend to look at, let's take a look at the lowest reviews. Here we go. Okay, they do not reply to emails. So here are our first clues. Now, you're not going to do this as a consumer, but as a brand, you want to make sure that you don't come across as e-com slot. So they've got this person on a subscription, and then there's no way for them to easily cancel. And you can see here, this is fake empathy. That's kind of like an AI automated templated message, a response. So they tend to respond according to Trustpilot. I completely understand your frustration. Yeah. Look, it's not unusual for companies to have AI pretty much running their customer support or customer experience, as it's now called for some reason. But yeah, these are incredibly templated responses. So that's another thing to check. And to be honest, when we looked at our reviews back up here, I mean, these look incentivized. They could be affiliates. Of course, they're going to leave some fantastic reviews. When you look at the low reviews, yeah, they look fake. Do you showcase your organic social? This looks all paid or affiliate. Let's go search. What I'm looking for here is that they've integrated social into their website. It's like they're doing the bare minimum of AI generated content there. Let's take a look at the story. So you want to make sure that you have a company origin, a company origin story. And sorry, I'm laughing because, yeah, those are the types of women that get generated by AI when the models have been produced by a man. Sorry, that's just a generalization, of course. I'm sure everything has improved and we've got much less flawed individuals being produced in AI. She's absolutely stunning. So I'm in the Our Story section. I swear I clicked in Our Story and it says About You. It feels like they haven't really tended to the URLs. And it's just no company origin. Clear messaging, and there's no story really. Any other credibility? No. What we're looking for would be press coverage, maybe some industry recognition or awards on this page, but none of that. And does your messaging talk to the full funnel? I'm seeing lots of really bottom of funnel messaging here. And I did look at their ad account as well. So a lot of offers, we don't have much in the way of top of funnel and some brand building. So those are red flags for me. They are taking women's money. Let's just call it what it is. Do you make it possible for your customers to speak to a real human? So you're not making it possible for your customers to speak to a real human. That is a red flag right there. And it doesn't have to be a phone number. It could be a live agent, for example. Not that many businesses want to invest in people behind the scenes, but I would say that in this case, this should have been escalated to an actual human behind the brand. Okay, so are you mentioned by other brands or by press or by media? I'm just using good old search here. Not even a blip on the radar in terms of brand coverage, press coverage. And it's a little bit of a hard brand to find. Let's just see what they're doing on Amazon. And I guess it's one of these products. What is that company? Or is that the ingredient? You can't really tell. I know the Shilajit would be the ingredient. So on Amazon, we have a few sellers plus FBA. Okay, so I would rate this as a store that doesn't actually have many humans behind it, if at all. And it really is targeting women who may be feeling quite vulnerable. Perhaps they've been looking for a solution and it's just, it's pink washing. Just sorry to say that. It just feels like this is pink washing over here. Let's look at another brand. Okay, so this next brand I know is legitimate. I haven't purchased from them. I've seen them around in the supplements wellness industry. So let's also run this checklist against them and see what you think. Great, coming up. Also coming up with the TGA, which is regulating supplements. And we've got video. So this is a good sign. Let's jump into their website. Studio quality images. We want to check if these are verified reviews. They are Trustpilot reviews. Okay, that's, we know the source, which is great. Where's a PDP? Let's try it. Here we go. Fantastic. So they're showing real lighting. So outdoor is a really good way to show that. Your product is in the hands of a real person. In video, they're moving around. They're actually showing the whole product experience. So the way it's delivered, the packaging, the starter pack. I mean, this is kind of cleaned up and it could be AI, but you really do need these other signals for customers to believe that you indeed have a real product. And it actually, to me, is a signal of quality. If you can get the art direction right on this more organic looking content. Yep, they've paid attention to design here, which is fantastic. And again, that real lighting, a real environment, and real product. They've given us support hours. So even if it is chat, those support hours tell us that a human is awake and working versus a 24/7 type of support where you would naturally be handed to a bot or an agent to handle queries in, say, the middle of the night in your time zone. And we've got verified reviews here. Let's take a look. Okay. So these people are feeling brilliant, taking the product. Yes. Okay. That's great. Real photos. Part of his morning routine. We like to see that. Do you have a company origin story? Well, they've got more than our other example. Let's take a look at who they are. They have some legitimate branding. And they've clearly gone to a brand strategist to put this together. It's very clear. But I'm not seeing anyone behind the company. What else have we got? Good attention to detail in the UI. okay, so if this is really their manufacturing facility, that's good proof. And this does look like a real person at one of those supplement manufacturing facilities. So they've got their TGA registration there. Yeah, and some explanations. So I think this is a good amount of effort that they've put in to make sure that people understand they have a quality product. I'm not actually understanding, though, if they have some passionate people behind the brand, for example. Let's take a look at their blog. Okay. Apart from that photo, the rest look like stock images. And content for content's sake, I'm just going to take it at face value. I haven't actually jumped in and started reading this. But they have some bylines, so that's a good sign, but I don't know who that person is that's written this article. So let's take a look at the bottom. Okay. Here we go. Perfect. They've actually got qualified experts writing their content, which is fantastic, and it's integrated into their shopping experience. So that really helps. They have a whole section dedicated to reviews and a section dedicated to the ingredients. So they sell one SKU, but nevertheless, they have put some effort into adding elements of humanity. What I'd like to see here is some more information about how the company started, who the people are behind the company, and maybe that's just not something that's a strong point for them, but they certainly have the backing of qualified experts. They seem to really understand the sourcing of their ingredients. Big tick there. So we know that we have reviews coming through on Trustpilot. We can also see them here. Let's take a look. And we can take a look at their low star reviews. And okay. Here we go. Here's a reply. Again, it's templated. And I do know that companies can just pretend that there's a human behind their AI customer support, including using a name. So Michael could definitely be an agent, but they seem to be inviting further communication. Michael, the agent, but he could be the person responding to Trustpilot, so that could also be a real person. Okay, I'm starting to see the template-based approach here from Michael. Yeah. I think this is one of those things that a lot of brands do to game Trustpilot. You want to be responsive, so you make sure that you send even the most automated, templated looking response into the ether to answer the reviews, especially the low reviews. But I think there's an extra step that as a brand you would want to do is turn that low star ideally into a higher star review. So winning back that customer if you can, if it's not too late. These templated responses just might not do the job. I'm getting lost in these reviews. They're fascinating. This right here. So people are being conned on the internet every day, and it's extraordinary what they'll put up with. I think as a brand, we can do better to help customers feel like there's actually a legitimate business that cares behind that website that they've just transacted at. Okay, let's look at their top of funnel and brand content just quickly at a glance. Okay, looking at it from a brand point of view, a lot more activity, a lot more followers. They've been around for a few years, posting and sharing. And these look like real customers and real customer stories, which is a big tick. Green flag over here. We know that consumers make a judgment call within a matter of seconds. So I think what we're talking about here in essence is building trust. And that trust has definitely been eroded by a lot of the AI and what I'm calling e-com slop out there. It's our job to prove that we are running legitimate businesses, that we have an actual brand and a fantastic product that we want to be selling to consumers. Thanks for diving into this proof of humanity experiment. I have a link to the checklist in the description below. I have it over on Substack, wrapped in an article with some other thoughts around this, so please head on over and say hello. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.